Hi everyone, I'm back here for a Week 10 Thursday Night Football Showdown overview. The Indianapolis Colts are going into Tennessee as a 1-point favorite, and the total on the game is 48.5. So I think one of the biggest things of significance coming into this game and the ownership in general is going to be the Colts running backs. So Jonathan Taylor, it's not a it's not a little known fact at this point that he's been losing a lot of work, and it's not just to Naheem Hines anymore, it's also to Jordan Wilkins. So you can see here on the left, he was actually outsnapped last week by both Wilkins and Hines. So that's definitely not a good thing to see, and it's not like a game where they were getting blown out and these guys just get in the game. There's nothing like that either. It was not like a close game necessarily against the Ravens, but early on it was a game. So it was a pretty normal, typical type of game script. It wasn't anything crazy that it has been signaling this decline in usage by Jonathan Taylor. So the opportunities are on the right, so that's targets plus rushing attempts here, and again, he's being just Wilkins is. He's been the lead back at this point. And at this point, too, it doesn't really matter who the lead back is. It's just the fact that there's three running backs getting work. So even if Taylor is becoming the lead back, he's still sharing the backfield overall. So in general, the chart, and the other interesting thing is Marlon Mack isn't even here. So imagine if he was here, I wonder how that would be going, if Taylor would maybe even be playing less. So overall, I think that's interesting, and then that's why I'm surprised too, given this usage. Jonathan Taylor's price coming in at 8,800. I guess, he kind of has to be the fifth price player here by attrition. Who else are you going to put above him? But I'm not sure if he's going to be too heavily owned, at least for a showdown slate in this game. So I think people are going to be pretty, especially on it's not FanDuel, it's Draftkings here, and in the PPR scoring format, it just makes Hines that much more viable. And Taylor, if he's not, again, he played 31% of the snaps last week. Wilkins played 34%, and Hines played 34%. So I don't think people are necessarily going to be too confident about plugging him in when you can get Wilkins and Hines at cheaper prices. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. And Hines can become extremely valuable if the Colts go down in this game early on. So the Colts, they're 1-point favorites, 48.5 point total. And that total kind of reflects, I think, more of how bad the Titans' defense is and has been. So, again, it could be harder for the Colts to fall behind in this game, but we'll see how it plays out. So I think in terms of general player pool, I'm not willing to go below Anthony Firkser this week. But if you were to go lower, I think on the Colts side, since there's no major inactives, DeMichael Harris and Darius Fountain could be in play. Now, T.Y. Hilton is back, and these guys already didn't see great usage to begin with. But DeMichael Harris did have 6 touches on 24% of the snaps, and Fountain, maybe he's actually inactive for this one with T.Y. back. So I don't really think that these guys are going to do enough to get into any sort of massive tournament-winning lineups. And I think it's just too – I can't really justify going down to either of these guys. And, again, extremely thin plays, I would say. Like they're beyond dart throws just given their usage. But DeMichael Harris did have 2 rushing attempts last week, so maybe they're like making an effort to get him involved in the offense. I could see that argument being made. So on the Titans side, Adam Humphries is a significant injury, I would say. He's going to be out. And the only thing is you don't want to overdo it and think that it's going to mean that these, unknown guys are going to step up and play a big role, because Adam Humphries, he wasn't doing much in the first place. He only saw 5.2 targets per game. I think his highest scoring output of the year was like that 18-point game earlier in the year. But again, I'm not sure if I'm going to be willing to play either of these guys, because it's just kind of the Titans have kind of defined exactly who's going to be getting the ball. in their offense. It just runs through Henry, and then they go from there with A.J. Brown and Corey Davis, and then Jonnu Smith, depending on the week. Ferkser even outperformed him pretty recently. So I think it kind of ends there. And again, I think that the Humphreys injury, while it doesn't hold significance for elevating any of these more thin plays, I do think that it probably elevates the median projections for A.J. Brown and Corey Davis, and then the tight ends as well. So maybe they actually see that increase in targets rather than these backup players that really are very unproven. So overall, too, in the captain spot, if you're looking to play a Titan, something interesting is that they have had 4 unique players this year. In their 8 games that they've played, 4 unique players have led them in scoring, and they've all done it twice. So Corey Davis, A.J. Brown, Ryan Tannehill, and Derrick Henry have each played 2 games where they came out as the highest fantasy scorer on their team. So that's something to think about, I think, when you're making your lineups. Maybe a Tannehill double stack is something that you think is viable, and maybe you fade Derrick Henry. That's a great way on a showdown slate to get a unique looking lineup. So again, nothing too crazy on this slate. No massively thin plays that are going to be elevated. It's not really like the 49ers situation that we saw recently with Trent Taylor and Richie James. Obviously, that was like an extreme outlier by Richie James, but you knew exactly who was going to be on the field. There's nothing like that here with a ton of injuries piling up. So I think that's why setting the floor at Anthony Ferkser is probably the way to go tomorrow night. So here's just a couple basic like shells here for what I think when people are making their lineups. Clearly on a showdown, they're just going to try to jam in these highest priced guys. And I do think to an extent Ferkser makes it possible to play 3 of these guys. And then where you see Rivers, you can also interchange it A.J. Brown. But A.J. Brown is more expensive, so you're going to have less options on this right side remaining player pool. But if you did play these options here, you could fit Pascal with the Titans defense. But also, I'm not sure if you're going for tournaments. Again, anything can happen. Maybe the Titans score a touchdown, a pick 6, anything. It's Phillip Rivers. So if he comes out and he's not playing well, it's a short week. He's older. So who knows what can happen. Titans are at home, but their defense has not been great. They can't get off the field on 3rd down. So I'm really not sure if you're going to see these defenses in general in lineups. Also, Gostkowski, people might even be scared by him. In a showdown, you're usually just looking for like 9 or 10 points from the kicker, but Gostkowski, you're really looking for kicking attempts and just opportunities. But in the opportunities he's been given, he has not played well, and he's been missing a lot of field goals. So maybe people are off of him, and they're more confident playing Blankenship. So overall, nothing too crazy. I think that the slate in tournaments is going to be one at the Colts running back position. So maybe it's a double Colts running back or just a single one, but I think that's a good spot to rotate in and out in your lineups, and that'll give you good salary relief too, where you're not duplicated as much. Maybe you have a lineup that you like a lot, Taylor's in it, and then you just duplicate it. You take out Taylor, put in Wilkins, take out Wilkins, put in Hines, and now you have a ton of salary on the table, and again, should be a lot less owned. So overall, I think the players with probably the most slate-breaking potential that is dependent on game flow, it's probably Nyheim Hines, if I had to say. And that's a pretty predictable flow of point scoring. So maybe the Titans get out to a big lead passing the ball, right? And it comes through A.J. Brown or Corey Davis. So maybe you have a Tannehill single stack or double stack. And then the Colts are playing catch up the whole game. Nyheim Hines is on the field a ton. He racks up like 6 catches. And then Henry's closing the game out on the other side. So maybe so there's more clock running if Henry's running the ball. And so then maybe it's only a single receiver with Tannehill that is viable, like Tannehill to A.J. Brown. You have Hines in there, Derrick Henry, and then you bring it back with someone like Marcus Johnson on the other side. And I think something like that is pretty interesting. And I think Hines definitely has, again, if that's the flow of the game, I think it's like the most logical jump that you can make that's like pretty bankable. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say here for this game. Again, 48.5 point total. Colts 1 point favorite on the road in Tennessee in this divisional matchup, and it's going to decide who remains in first in the division. So, yeah, that's it for this, and I'll be coming out with some stuff for the main slate this Sunday. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and I hope to see you again.